And you're showing that you're not just going to keep going along with what's been happening.
And
which is how you get put on government lists.
Anyway,
this has been your How to Piss Off the Government episode.
What do you mean I can't fly?
Anyway. What do you mean I can't fly?
Nope.
When things are wrong, I'll be by your side. Even when you want to cry.
Stop it.
Welcome.
Nuremberg 2.0 is trending on Twitter right now.
Do it. To the Naked Apple.
Not sure. I'm not sure why it's trending, but that's what you get to start with.
I'm
Have
fine
fun
with
with
this.
that.
This pleases me.
Welcome. Here we are once again.
Here we are in the throes of 2023 already. It's been...
Why does it?
2023's been a week and a half, and it has been a week and a half. Holy cow.
we wish we could say this is a new beginning, but it's the same old stuff.
But it's not, but it is.
It's been a long 3 months of January.
The time
It's
that
only half over.
The time that we've been gone, Keith has subconsciously made a goal to eat more steak this year.
Subconsciously.
And Trevor acquired a new home.
And I moved into my new house. I moved twice, technically, over the break. that was fun.
I helped once.
Yes. And Mike is more Mike than he was before.
Yes. I get more Mike every day.
That's what we've accomplished while we were gone. I doubt anyone else can.
A better,
come near
hotter
that.
Mike than ever before.
A better, hotter Mike. I need just Paris Hilton. That's hot. I was about to play the whole hot mic
What
theme.
the hell is even that?
Decided to spare you for at least a couple more minutes.
You deleted one of the sound bites off of there.
I deleted nothing. The
There
empty
is
space.
a sound bite that was
The
there
empty
that is
space
no
that is
longer
there was there when I was scrolling through to name.
Blame the
ones.
software update.
Yep.
Pretty sure that I've never had a fully blank space there before. I don't remember what that was supposed to be, though.
I've got a blank space, babe. I'll write your name.
Yes. Anyway.
I get along with Starbucks lovers. That's what she says in the song. Fight me. It's the lyrics.
Pretty sure it's not, but that's okay.
No, it is. Anyway.
Anyways.
Let's kick off the year with a kickoff of your weekly dose of vitamin
B. Welcome to your vitamin B.
Thank you.
The intro just wouldn't be the same without your dulcet tones, Trevor.
Soft, supple voice.
We appreciate the effort. Speaking of appreciated effort, nation devastated as Congress resumes functioning.
Almost got away with it.
Almost got away with it. Fortunately, not everyone is on the same page mentally. AOC asks why we need a House Speaker since everyone already has headphones.
That's not what that word means.
It's close enough. In a stunning turn of events, celebrity who travels on private jets and collects luxury sports cars says you're the reason for climate change.
I mean, yeah, of course.
We need to all do our part and be nicer to Mother Nature.
We're all in this together.
Go Green. Spelled GR33N. Because reasons.
Because reasons.
Speaking of incompetence, study finds despite campaign promises, malarkey has increased 376% under Biden.
Malarkey.
For those of you that forgot, his campaign slogan was "No more malarkey." I believe that the slogan maker forgot the comma. No, comma. More malarkey.
That explains it.
Yes.
That's what they were going for.
The great comma debate continues, just on a different forum.
Yes, indeed. Radical conspiracy theorist says most mental health problems can be solved with exercise, fresh air, and spending time with family.
The nerve of some
nerve.
people. Jeez.
Nerve.
Recommend
Speaking of mental
Get out.
ineptitude, California is the state of freedom, says man who locked everyone in their homes for 2 years.
So long as you do what I say, you'll be free to do it.
While we're on the subject of the nasty virus that shall not be named, disagreement among progressives over whether the vax is the literal body of Fauci or just symbolic.
Oh, that's the worst one I've heard today.
That's the best one I've heard.
And in conjunction with that, experts say they don't know what thing is causing everyone to suddenly collapse, but it is definitely not that one thing.
we don't know what it is. Is it this? Oh, it's definitely not
Definitely
that.
not that.
It just keeps happening.
We're perplexed. We can't find the common thread.
We are indeed perplexed.
We
So
just know that-
perplexed.
we just know that this has already happened before. It's nothing new.
Indeed. Speaking of nothing new, Biden declares the southern border as secure as America's elections.
I
How
don't.
comforting.
I hate all of that.
Well, if you hated that, you'll love this. Gridlock. Couple on 15th round of voting where to go for dinner.
Get Matt Gaetz in on this.
Yes. He'll vote present.
He'll make some concessions for us.
And this has been your Vitamin B.
That was lovely.
That was lovely. I enjoyed that quite thoroughly.
Except for the part that I hated. That was lovely.
Except for the part that I hated. I mean, he's not wrong.
No, he is not. Although I will say that apparently if you want your progressive city cleaned up, you just need to invite Joe Biden to the city and they'll clean up all the homeless camps for his visits.
By spraying them with a garden hose in front of their stores. In fact, we have video evidence.
Yeah. If you go to Clown World's Twitter, you'll see a storefront owner just
Hosing people down.
leaning back on a fence, hosing down the homeless, telling them to leave.
So how many homeless people did he have to spray?
In this
it just the
video,
one
in
in
this
the
video,
video?
there appears to just be one holdout, and it has been viewed 5.9 million times.
I think hosing down the homeless sounds like a great charity name.
Hosing
Has
down the
a
homeless.
certain ring to it.
Hose down
Donate
the
here.
homeless.
Hose down the homeless.
Sounds like a band name too.
It does. It does. You know, I know some teenagers. I can suggest a name
know.
change.
Hose down the homeless.
Hose down the homeless.
I don't know if that's good for
Trust
Battle
me.
of the
Trust
Bands.
me. Trust me. People will love it. People will love it. Maybe not so much in the winter months in Utah, but people in general during the summer will love it.
Tell you what, hosing down the homeless in the middle of January in Utah, they're not staying in front of your store anymore. Tell you right now.
One way or another. They're not staying in front of your That's terrible.
Speaking of terrible, our theme for the year comes from Thomas Paine, who I believe today is the anniversary of him writing Common Sense.
A beautiful work.
Thomas Paine often told critics of his work, "He who dares not offend cannot be honest." And I think that's fitting with how the House thing went with the McCarthy vote and a bunch of other things that we're going to talk about that occurred or are about to occur or have been occurring. But we'll start with Ann Lesby, PhD, she, her, on Twitter.
She, her.
With a
I already
rainbow.
know where this is going.
With a rainbow, yes. She's the head of gender studies at ACL University. She's anti-racist fetus author, 1/8 black, white as can be in her profile picture, neurodivergent, typical, non-binary, semi-trans lesbian who dates men. She's vegan plus, and she's a mentor of S.A. Tire.
Wow. It took me. I don't think I followed that entire thing, but you can go on.
You caught up a little bit there?
I thought I was pretty well versed in leftism speak.
Yes.
But
yes.
I did not follow that.
She is warning everyone, beware of harmformation peddlers such as libs of TikTok. Harmformation, the most dangerous form of misinformation, while disinformation can be disproven with facts. Harmformation is factual evidence presented in a harmful light.
She just made that up.
Of course she did.
Just like her account.
They are very good at making up words.
Yes.
You know, I'm actually been thinking about how I can take my own identity as a, white heterosexual married man and turn it into like the LGBT status.
Oh, it's super easy.
Hold on. Before you tell me, I'm going to take a whack at it. Okay. Maybe I could identify as a monosexual, which, I mean, it sounds good to me.
Uh-huh.
What I mean that to
It
me
sounds intelligent.
is, it
It
sounds
does.
intelligent.
Or
I
a
could-
unisexual.
Ooh.
There you go.
There it is. Unisexual.
That means one, right?
Yes.
Uni means
okay,
one.
fine. Unisexual, which means I'm only attracted to one person, my wife, and then declare myself part of the LGBT plus community.
Yes, you're in the plus.
Boom.
Yeah.
I did it.
Yeah.
There's an old saying in Tennessee, I know it's in Texas, probably in Tennessee, that says, fool me once, shame on you. If fool me, we can't get fooled again.
Thank you, George W. Thank you.
W.
Anyway, point is, they are very good at making up words, and I just took a whack at it, and I succeeded.
Good job.
Thank you.
Good job.
I feel proud of myself.
I'm proud of you, too. It's about time you came out.
So, while we were gone, the Senate gave everyone a Christmas present by putting us extremely deeper in debt and giving Congress, the House of Representatives, zero teeth to work with going into the new year. And we have 18 Republicans to thank for that. And those Republicans are... Oh, crap. This doesn't just give the actual
Was
list.
it basically the same list that voted for the Destruction of Marriage Act?
Probably close to that, yeah. We got Boozman from Arkansas. AZ is Arizona. From Arkansas.
Arkansas.
Capito from West Virginia. Collins from Maine. Of course. She's basically a Democrat anyway. Cornyn from Texas. Cotton from Arkansas. And Lindsey Graham from South Carolina.
Oh, Lindsey Graham. Of course.
Yes. Inhofe from Oklahoma. Where are the rest of you? McConnell, of course, from Kentucky. Morin from Kansas. Murkowski from Alaska.
No surprise there.
Nope. Portman from Ohio. Romney
Oh, he said it.
from Utah. Rounds from South Dakota. Shelby from Alabama. Senator John Thune. From South Dakota. And Wicker from Missouri. And Young from Indiana.
Beautiful. What did they vote on exactly?
And then two that didn't vote, Barrasso from Wyoming and Burr from North Carolina.
And Kramer from North Dakota.
And Kramer from North Dakota. Yep, that was also
3.
Republican. 3. Good job, guys. Good job, all of you, for putting us $1.7 trillion deeper into debt.
Oh, you're talking about the budget.
Yes.
Oh, Merry Christmas.
And voting on it with just a couple of days to actually read the 4,000 plus pages of.
It was like 48 hours before it was passed, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah. Yeah. Stuffed with all kinds of pork, all of which we won't fully know about because who actually has time to read 4,000 plus pages of gobbledygook? Let's give $2.5 million to every single senator for security.
Now, this
and
budget
other
bill,
things.
was it just for a single year?
Yeah, it's for the fiscal year. It's a blanket budget for the whole year, but it's not a budget. It's just a spending bill.
And it was 1.2 trillion?
1.7.
Oh, gosh.
And the difference between a budget and a spending bill is the spending bill says, here's all this money for all these groups, and the executive branch decides how to actually divvy it up to these groups. Good job. Good job. Instead of doing a budget and then having the House hold the departments accountable to stick to the budget.
You know, I read a book called Term Limits not so long ago.
Uh-huh.
It was written in like 2005 or something like that. And the plot of the book is there were a bunch of Navy SEALs that decided to take up that offer in the Declaration of Independence, where if the government fails to protect the rights of its citizens, then the people have the right to rebel. And so basically these Navy SEALs start assassinating these very corrupt politicians. That was the plot of the book. The reason I bring this up is because in that book, one of the talking points about why they're doing this, like their terrorism note, was the country is $6 trillion in debt, and that is unsustainable.
Oh, if only.
Who wants to guess how many trillions of dollars in debt we are in as of 2022?
Well, Biden says that we spent less or something, and so it's probably actually gone down from then since Joe Biden's been in office.
That was the deficit.
Right.
So
He said the deficit's down, so Joe Biden's helped us get less than $6 trillion.
The deficit, that's just talking about how much you spent compared to last year.
It is so hard to be as unthinking as possible with this.
It's unbelievable to me. Like if I put $30,000 on my credit card, which is a ridiculous amount for a household, and then the next year I put $29,000 on my credit card.
Right.
I can't say, look at how much money I saved.
You shaved off $1,000
from what I spent last year.
I think we should just put it all on black.
Anyway, we are $31 trillion.
It would be more worthwhile
in 2022.
So only five times more than when that book was
written.
written.
I don't even think that includes the bill that we just passed. But just to give a little bit of context, in 2008 we were $10 trillion in debt, and it took until 2017 we were $20 trillion in debt, and then it just took 5 years to add another $10 trillion to to our national debt.
So what you're saying is we are exponentially increasing
basically
our debt.
Yes.
Yeah, basically, it took us 2008 to the founding of our country, that long to accumulate 10 trillion. Then it took, 9 years to accumulate another trillion. And now it's 5 years to accumulate another 10 trillion.
Which means in the next 2 years, we'll acquire another 10 trillion.
That's the rate at which we're going.
Yes.
And you know something? I have a hunch this is not sustainable.
What?
Just a hunch?
Anyway,
I don't know
no.
where you get such preposterous ideas.
I spent a lot of emotion on this of just how unsustainable our national debt is.
The Federal Reserve can just print more money. We're fine.
Well, that'll have some side effects. Anyway, I'm going to rant about this later on when we talk about the McCarthy vote. But I did put a lot of emotion into that stupid budget that half the Republicans are like, oh, let's just pass it. I want to go home.
Oh, no. Yeah. Cowards.
No, Rand Paul, he released a poem about that. I wish I had that clip, but it was the night before Christmas, and all the senators, like something like that. Anyway,
I've got a
Twitter.
short audio of it.
Oh, you do?
Old saying in Tennessee, I know it's a Texas, but in Tennessee that says, "Fool me once, shame on,
That button's getting a little worn out, it looks like.
shame on you." If fool me, we can't get fooled again.
I also have shift response.
See, I belong to a certain secret society. I don't believe I gotta mention its name.
You know, I still remember on my first episode just how excited you were to press that button when I referenced "Fool Me Once."
I like the button. I like the button a lot. Okay. That's
Yeah. So
and Matt Gates' comments on it.
oh,
You ready for this?
yes.
Everybody knows you never go full retard.
Yeah. And then Donald Trump endorsed McCarthy, and Kevin and Gates responded with,
They might be trying to screw me.
Well, of course they're trying to screw you.
Man, can't handle how on point I am with the buttons tonight.
so we have those 18 senators that can stop being senators anytime now. It'd be great. Well, some of them already did, actually. They signed that bill as their sign-off for not being senator anymore because they didn't run for senator again.
It was their one finger salute as they left office.
You know what? I just thought of something. This should have been a concession.
Don't come back.
This should have been a concession that they got from McCarthy is a vote to have the senators and the House of Representatives, their paychecks come from their states, not from the federal government.
Oh, I like that.
I like that.
Then they can't give themselves pay raises,
Yes.
among other things.
Well, but
Someone from California would be paid more than someone from Wyoming. Yep. And that's California's choice. Wyoming can't afford the $100,000 a year. Yeah. Yeah, that's
I
probably because
legit
you
had
don't
somebody try to
deserve.
convince me the other day that California is propping up everything in the entire country with its GDP.
I mean, 100 years ago, maybe.
It's like they've got the 6th largest GDP in the world with just their state. I'm like, and yet they still can't afford half of the shit that they do in their own state.
Did you
Oh,
respond?
but they pay into the Fed. They pay into the Fed. That's what I kept getting from them. They pay into the Fed. I'm like,
Did you
so does
ask-
everybody else. It's illegal not to.
Did you ask them how many times California's declared bankruptcy?
I didn't.
oh, that would be a good one.
I didn't.
And how many times has
But
a
I did
state
say
like-
that they're on the verge of declaring it again. So
and
there's
how many
that.
times has, I don't know, Texas declared bankruptcy? Oh, never.
Well,
it doesn't matter how much money you make if you're terrible with it.
Case in point, look at every lottery winner.
Yes. Yes.
So yeah, we have those 18 losers. Here's the 20 winners from, if you missed the McCarthy debacle, it's probably the greatest moment of political anything, at least in my lifetime, to happen in DC. Because of the implications of it. The 20 heroes, I call them. Patriots, if you will. Actual Republicans. Actual conservatives.
Hold 1 second. Before you go there, I want to finish my California point.
Please do.
I have one more thing.
It is currently 2023.
Uh-huh.
In 2016, California had $118.7 billion in total debt. $785.72 billion in unfunded liabilities and other retirement benefits, meaning that they had $785.72 billion that they couldn't pay for in their own
That they had to get a loan from the government
that they had to
for?
get a loan from the government for. They had a $250 surplus per capita.
$250 surplus?
Yes. Surplus. Yeah. So that was in 2016. And they've only gotten worse since then.
Yeah.
Just saying. Anyway,
the 20 heroes in the stand against McCarthy and the machine and the swamp and whatever else you want to call it there. Representatives Andy Biggs, Dan Bishop, Lauren Boebert, Josh Breachin. I don't know. You need to fix your name, Josh. Michael Cloud, Andrew Clyde, Ellie Crane, Matt Gates, Bob Good, Paul Gosar, Andy Harris, Anna Paulina Luna, Mary Miller, Ralph Norman, Andy Ogles, Scott Perry, Matt Rosendale, Chip Roy, Keith Self, and Byron Donalds. Those 20 are the reason why nothing is going to get done from Congress for the next 2 years, which is a great thing. Outside of that, they actually did get some decent concessions that will help for the rest of Congress. I guess I should probably do those before DeSantis. Among the concessions they got, a promise for guaranteed votes on pet issues like a balanced budget amendment, term limits, a Texas border plan, and an end to all remaining coronavirus mandates and funding. Yes, please. A new committee to investigate the alleged weaponization of the FBI against its political foes. The committee would be modeled on the Church Committee, which investigated U.S. intelligence agencies in 1975. It would have a budget comparable to the recently disbanded January 6th committee. More single-subject bills to allow members to vote on specific, narrow issues instead of 1,000-page pork barrel behemoths.
Yes.
A 72-hour window for members to read any new bill before it can be voted on. Yes, especially when linked with it's one thing.
Yeah.
You should have.
Yeah,
If
like,
you can't
we need
fit
both of those.
If you can't fit one thing into something that can be read and debated within 72 hours, no.
All right. Yeah.
And a promise to refuse any increase in the debt ceiling in the next federal budget agreement. Yes.
Could someone explain to me how these are like concessions from McCarthy? Like, it's like, we need time to read the bills that we're voting on, and McCarthy's like, no, okay, fine.
Yeah, because back when McCarthy was in charge, with Donald Trump being in charge, before Pelosi was in charge again, he didn't do any of these things. Which is why Donald Trump had to sign executive order after executive order after executive order to get things done, because McCarthy and McConnell did nothing to help him on important issues like border security, health care, budget stuff.
Yeah. All right. Well, Anyway, that's great that we got a few concessions that honestly shouldn't be concessions. Like, I am surprised that we had to negotiate these out of him.
Yeah, those are just the rule concessions. The rules. They got a whole list of, we're going to do a bunch of bills and you're going to bring them to the floor.
Like, you'd think that those would just be his priorities. Anyway, so Mike, you and I, we had a disagreement on how this McCarthy fight went. Tell me some more about why you thought that McCarthy was no better than a Democrat.
Because he's not.
Because he's not.
Look at his voting record. Look at what he does. He sides on not conservative issues a grand majority of the time in most of his stuff.
Yeah, so as you know, I was arguing with you on that. I said that it is not worth it to risk the possibility of a Democrat Speaker of the House when we have a Republican majority. And I took the opinion that we should just vote for McCarthy. And after I learned that they were trying to get, the 20 were trying to get concessions out of McCarthy, I was like, okay, that's actually a great strategy. Like, get concessions from McCarthy and then vote for him. But the point is we do want him to become Speaker of the House once we get sufficient concessions.
The concessions that they got from him prove my point.
Yes. Tell me more about that.
You said yourself that
yes.
how are these concessions we had to get from a Republican?
Yeah.
So, because they're not concessions we had to get from a Republican. They're concessions we had to get from a Democrat that's pretending to be a Republican.
So
that's fair.
McCarthy's Liberty score is 54%.
Yeah, so I
Just over half
Heritage. Is that
Conservative Review.
Conservative Review?
So just over half of the time, he votes for things that give more liberty.
Yeah, so
which is worse than some Democrats.
I was looking at his Heritage Action score, which is pretty similar.
Right.
And I looked at it and I'm like, oh, it's 88%. That's great. That was actually his score from this last session. So just this one, his overall lifetime score is 53%.
Yes, he bumps his score up when it's time for him to get in power. When the writing on, here's what's funny. I thought about this. So McConnell withheld money from key races to keep Republicans from actually getting control of the Senate. And in so doing, it kind of hurt the House side because McCarthy wasn't doing anything either to push for Republicans to take over the House. So in so doing, Republicans just barely win the House.
Okay.
This puts the Freedom Caucus in a position of power because they have just enough to do what they just did.
Yeah.
Whereas if the political machine behind getting the same old tired thing in the Republican Party went to work to get more Republicans voted on so they'd actually have power just to do the same old thing, they would have been able to do the same old tired thing because they would have had more votes to just do that. But because the Freedom Caucus had the numbers it had and they had such a slim majority as a whole, they screwed themselves over by trying to screw over actual conservatives getting into power.
I have to say, given... go ahead.
Going off of the Freedom scores, right? You want to have a comparison stick here. So you dislike Romney vehemently, correct?
McCarthy has a lower score than Mitt Romney.
No, not quite. Not quite. McCarthy's score is 54. Take a guess what Romney's score is.
53.
52.
52. Oh my gosh.
So he is right there next to Romney.
Yeah. No, I completely agree.
There are some Democrats that have scores in the 60s. Just saying.
Wow. That's okay. So I did see that. I saw that Romney had a comparable score to McCarthy. And so I agree. After looking at his record, I think there's no question that Kevin McCarthy is a terrible result for Speaker. We can definitely agree on that. I am pleased with the concessions, and I'm also hopeful that because McCarthy had a higher liberty score in this last session, that he is, shall we say, let's say open-minded to those in his own power. But granted, he's proven to be open-minded to the Democrats as well, so that's not good.
Yes. But one of the concessions that they got that's key to all of this is going back to Jeffersonian rules that Jefferson set up, which, I don't know, kind of important. But one member of the controlling party, if they don't like the speaker, can call for a new vote for speaker.
Yeah. Yeah, that was one of the concessions.
So now, again, that small majority, that small group of the Freedom Caucus, those 20 members, basically are holding McCarthy by the balls the entire time, saying, you're going to stick to these rules or we'll do it again.
I bet they're going to do it again. Like I bet you that I'm calling it right now. I think it'll happen the next time a budget comes up.
It's going to happen.
Anyway, so now that I'm aware that Kevin McCarthy is very comparable to Romney, and Romney is just the bane of my existence.
The saddest thing is Romney's not even the worst one in the GOP.
No.
Yeah. I'd like to ask some questions rhetorically. Mm-hmm. So the questions are, would you rather have a squishy Republican like Romney or like Kevin McCarthy as Speaker of the House, or really any leadership position, or a full-blown Democrat?
I'd rather have third party.
Well, once again,
Pull the trigger.
If I'm being perfectly honest.
Yeah. What options do we have to enact change? So just like within the Republican caucus, now that we have a majority, like what levers do we have to actually enact change to get the country in a better direction? And just generally, what I've learned from this is each of us have different appetites for risks and levels of satisfaction with incremental change, because we can all agree that we are not in a good situation, but we have different standards for what good incremental change looks like.
I think so actually, who was it that I was listening to the other day? I think it was Timcast. Timcast. They had a kind of a meeting of minds there, and one of the guys said something that I can't remember who it was that said it, but one of them said something that struck me as very, that explains so many things between my difference of opinion with several of my friends. And it was when he was describing his outlook versus one of the other guys' outlook, he said, you're a reformist and I'm a revolutionary. And the difference in mentality is the reformist believes that there's still a chance to work within the system to make the change we need. And the revolutionary believes that to make the change we need drastic overhaul immediately that probably can't be done within the system with as broken as it is.
And they would be the types of people that would be willing to risk a Democrat Speaker of the House to make sure that we don't get McCarthy.
Because they see it as all the same anyway.
Yeah,
exactly.
And so just the point that I want to make on this is, even though I probably wouldn't have made that same decision, I mean, I'm talking about the never McCarthy people that even at the end they didn't vote for McCarthy.
Right.
I'm more on the camp of get as many concessions as you can out of McCarthy and then vote for him. That's more like where I'm at. But I definitely respect the never McCarthy Republicans as an act of desperation, because I'm not in the House. I really don't know what levers there are for change within the House, but assuming there's none, and assuming you have the kind of risk appetite to be willing to risk a Democrat Speaker of the House, I really respect it as an act of desperation. It's true I'm not quite there. Like, I wouldn't have done the never McCarthy thing. But if I did believe that there's no difference between voting for him and a Democrat, and I didn't have any other levers to pull to enact any change, I probably would do it, even though like we can agree that it was probably pointless to just not vote for McCarthy.
Right.
You know, but as an act of desperation, even though I wasn't quite there when this happened and I wouldn't have done the same thing, I'm not that far off.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, because it's one of those things where if you look at that list of the 20, many of them are still rather junior representatives.
Yeah.
They haven't been there for a long time, whereas McCarthy's been there for 16
Yeah,
years.
and just look at the concessions that we got out of McCarthy. You know, like in my opinion, because he had made so many concessions just over this one thing, and we're probably going to have the same fight again in the not so distant future. Like that to me shows that he's kind of a weak leader.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Yes, definitely.
And the point is that if we don't have, the point I'm trying to make is I think this fight revealed what situation we're in. Because if we don't have strong leadership that focuses everyone's risk appetites toward a specific objective,
and
we'll basically be herding cats.
Yes.
I do want to point out, I don't think it was as much of a risk of that as you think it was.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Simply
That didn't
because
come to fruition.
the vote was so close. Literally all the Republicans would have needed to do is have one or two people vote for McCarthy at the end as it was winding down to tie with the Democrat candidate to where they would have to re-vote again anyway.
Yeah, it's true that
there really wasn't that much risk there.
Yeah, no. Assuming that's true, again, I don't know, you know, because it's over now, so I really don't know how high the risk of risking a Democrat Speaker of the House was. But assuming there wasn't a huge risk of that happening, then I think it should have gone on all day.
Yeah,
and for weeks, months,
and it's
whatever.
also worth noting that this is actually like it's not necessarily the way it was intended to function every time, but it was intended for this particular thing to function this way.
Yeah.
You know, and you can tell that by historical evidence. I mean, look at the 1855 House Speaker vote.
Right.
The 1855 House Speaker vote took them 2 months, and it was 133 ballots they
Something
went through.
like
They
that,
voted 133 times before they finally picked a House Speaker. You know, and it was because the options weren't good. They were trying to make deals. They were trying to make a concession that would make it so that the House could go forward. And the problem we had here is everybody's so used to things being done quickly, being done instantly, and you know, when the government shuts down, it's a huge deal.
Nowadays it is.
It shouldn't be a huge deal. No. The government should be so small that if the government shuts down for 3 weeks, nobody cares.
Yep.
That's the way it was intended to be. But it's gone so far out of control that and this House Speaker vote casts into perfect light how out of control it is.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know,
because there were prominent Democrats that were so concerned about all this. If an emergency happens, we wouldn't be able to act. Any of you could vote for McCarthy at any time and end this.
Yeah.
If it's that big of a deal for the Democrats, they can vote for McCarthy.
Yep.
And that would have been over.
Yep.
It would have been done. But they didn't. They sat and ate their popcorn and watched the show because McCarthy's the same as the guy they were trying to get elected.
Yep.
It would have been the same rules, the same thing. So they just let it go because they knew American people as a whole would be too stupid to understand the difference between a republic and democracy. Because what you witnessed with McCarthy was a republic.
Yes.
Every other time they vote for speaker and it's just one vote and it's done, that's a democracy.
And they also let it go because of the way the media was spinning it. Because the media was spinning it as a complete circus and a clown show on the Republicans'
embarrassment
part,
on our country.
This is how it should
which
work.
isn't true. It was exactly the way it should have worked. It was done for a purpose. It was done with a reason, and it was done well.
Yep.
And you can tell it was done well because they got all the concessions they wanted.
And it's concessions that everyone agrees with.
And it was concessions that everybody agreed with. And it's concessions that you read the concessions and you're like, wait,
Why did they have to?
why did they have to come up with concessions for a Republican speaker?
Yeah.
Anyway, so I want to talk about the the point that I'm trying to make is
Yeah.
I think that this situation reveals what our situation in Washington is.
Yeah.
Is the Democrats are insane and they are extremely unified. The Republicans are trying to compete with the Democrats, and we are not unified because we have weak leadership. Because, most Republicans are just willing to vote for whatever to just get their day over with. But others actually want some change. And we have an opponent that is trying to destroy the country. But for us to win, we need to be both unified and fight for the right things. And there are only, so many Republicans that are willing to fight for the right things instead of just cave to the Democrats.
Yeah, Democrats are trying to, as a whole, are trying to destroy the country. They all have different ways in which they want to destroy it.
Yeah.
But they're all working together right now to get there until, just like any woke thing, eventually you're not woke enough and you're dropped off the train.
Well-
but Republicans are doing their damnedest to keep up.
Yeah.
And so that's why it is the way it is, because a Democrat is a Republican in 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So I know we're talking about this for we haven't moved on to another article for a while.
It's fine, though. To me, this is like I said before, this is like the most important thing that's happened in Congress. The most game-changing thing that's happened in Congress since I can even remember in my lifetime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wanted to talk about a broader topic than just the speaker fight that we just had. I want to talk about explore who's to blame for the mess we have in Washington in general. Like why we just got a budget that is going to increase the debt even more, like unprecedentedly so, in a single year. Why the Democrats are insane and why the Republican Party is so ineffective. Who do we blame for all that?
Yes.
You just gestured to all of him.
How deep do you want to dig that hole?
Well, I've been thinking about this more, and I'm apt to blame the voters.
Yes, of course.
I'm not, I know it's not that simple, but the way I see it is the way our system works is through the consent of the governed, and the way we give consent to the government is through voting, and the system depends on the voters selecting good candidates, and if they fail in that responsibility, being educated as to what these candidates will actually lead to, then they are to blame when the system fails. And basically, whoever is responsible for any system is to blame when that system fails. And I think that the voters are the ones that fundamentally have the responsibility to buoy up the system. And because they are so indifferent and uneducated and, just plain ignorant, because we keep getting these messes in Washington, I think they are fundamentally to blame because they are not taking their responsibility seriously.
I agree to a point.
Yeah.
But I think that the real blame falls on schools and it falls on the media.
Yeah.
Because that's how voters get their information. So yeah, I mean, and this is you go round and round and round and round here
On where the blame is, yeah.
Because yes, the voters should educate themselves, but where do the voters get their education? They get their educations from school. They get their educations from media. So when somebody takes control of school and media, and for decades they pump in propaganda and they teach people things that are wrong, you can't at that point really blame the voters anymore.
Yeah.
Because it's the people that have been re-educating them.
Yeah.
And
Indoctrinating them throughout the years that are really pulling the strings. And so they're the ones really to blame.
And you go back to the 50s, 60s, whenever it was, when in Congress they read in the communist goals to take over America. And you read through those goals that they have, and all but 3 or 4 are done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And among those goals is to take control of the media, take control of education, take control of all these things that people get their information from, and corrupt it.
Yeah.
To make it so it's communist friendly, to make it socialist friendly. And to that point, currently Representative Don Young from AK is Alaska.
Yes.
He's got a Liberty score of 46%. He's a Republican. He's been there for 50 years.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I bet you talk to any Alaskan in his district, and they will tell you how much they hate just about everything that he's voted for.
He's a House Republican, and he's been there for 50 years.
50
Yes.
years.
And everyone hates him.
And we need term limits.
I'm not saying that everyone hates him. I'm saying if you bring up the things that he's voted for that dinged his Liberty score, and you
Right.
talk to the people in Alaska, they'll tell you, well, yeah, things like that should pass, or I hate when they vote for this, or I hate when they vote for that. And he's voting against everything that they stand for, but they keep putting him in office. It's to your point that you're saying.
Again, indifference. They're like, oh, he's a Republican.
It's
Just
not.
vote for him.
It's not my representative.
Right. Well,
It's
and
the
I don't,
other ones.
I don't know necessarily as much that it is actually indifference as much as it is being misled.
It's being misled, and
In-
you don't
in a
want
lot
to
of
be
ways.
wrong.
Yeah,
'Cause
exactly.
You
Well,
put him
and-
there. You don't want him to be the wrong guy.
because your average person, your average everyday person, is going to look at, and this is the problem with the party system, because they're going to look at a ballot and they're going to go, oh, Republican, that means he shares my values, and they're gonna
same thing with Democrat too.
and same thing with Democrat too. Oh, Democrat, they share my values, and they're going to check a box, and that's how they're going to vote, because they've been educated that Republican means X and Democrat means X, and that's not what they mean. They don't mean anything. It literally doesn't mean anything other than this person paints themselves red and that person paints themselves blue so that you won't be bigoted against them for their color. That's literally what it means. That's literally the only reason it exists is to take take advantage of the people that are being indoctrinated to think that way.
Yeah, and again,
You know?
if they're just voting based off of the color, so whether they're a red candidate or a blue candidate, that's an example of them refusing to take on their responsibility as a voter.
But it's also because that's the way they've been educated to do it.
Yeah.
It's the way
Yes.
they've been told to do it. I
It's a
mean, you look
double-edged
at
sword.
you look at your parents. Your parents. I mean, my parents voted Republican down ballot every single year, every time,
Right.
because we need a Republican in office.
Well,
That was it. That was the extent of the reasoning. It wasn't because ex-Republican had, this good value. And that's why I am a hard advocate of stop voting party.
yeah,
Vote your conscience,
Washington was right.
And I know you disagree with me on that, Keith. And I know a lot of people disagree with me on that. But our problems, our real problems, stem back to people don't educate themselves because they're indoctrinated to follow the system, and the system is rigged.
The system has taught people what to think, not how to think.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
So, going back to just, I will admit that this opinion that I have, that the blame is on the voters, it's largely stemming from just my anger of what has happened recently, the destruction of Marriage Act and the budget that was just passed.
And it's
I
not-
am extremely angry about those.
Yeah, and it's not that
Yeah.
you're wrong in blaming the voters, because
No, you're not wrong. Like I said, I agree to you. I agree with you to a point.
Yeah, like I said, it's a double-edged sword. Like, the voter, people should be smart enough to know that you're being played,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
at the
exactly.
same time, the system is freaking rigged.
Yeah, exactly.
After I see a third of the Senate Republicans vote for this budget, including Mitt Romney or anyone voting for Democrat, and then inflation keeps getting worse. I'm apt to say you guys deserve it. If you keep voting for these scumbags, you don't deserve freedom and you don't deserve prosperity. I understand that
Okay.
it's not that simple. So,
But-
here's two questions. Here's two questions I want to ask. These are somewhat rhetorical. Number one, I'm hoping that you can talk me out of my declaration that people don't deserve freedom. And number two, how do we turn this around? Now, before you answer the question, I want to give thought. I want to try to answer my own question. So, thoughts on number one. Like you said, there are cultural forces at work that manipulate the average person through the media, academia, Hollywood, public schools, selective enforcement of the law. I'm mostly referring to the DOJ declaring parents that went to school board meetings as domestic terrorists.
Yes.
So anyway, point is all of these are basically sanctions against the average person to make them think a certain way. So it's just easier to operate in society if you think a certain way.
Right.
And my thoughts on number two, how do we turn this around? I think we turn it around by being fearless and influential. So in other words, within our own sphere of influence, just like try to influence as many people as possible and making good candidates an option. So my solution to what you're saying is like, don't just vote red, don't just vote by party. My solution for that is the real fight is in the primaries. That's my opinion. Is the real fight is in the primaries.
So, but the primaries happen. The red candidate is chosen.
Then I would
You
vote
have
red.
a choice
Yeah.
between Romney and a Democrat.
I would look into the Democrat. I'm
and
not fully
that's-
confident I would do this when the time came. But
That's the problem with
I'm
with
leaning
blaming the
towards
voter.
saying-
That's the problem with blaming the voter when the party system is the way it is.
Well, right, but we had the opportunity to select a different candidate in the primary. So once we lost the primary, we lost the election. And yeah, we have the option between two bad options. But Romney having a score of, what was it, 52 versus a Democrat who, let's say, what is the average Democrat score? I don't even know.
22.
Low.
22? Okay. So,
Well, actually, no. So I looked it up again. So I said earlier that there are some Democrats in the 60s. I was wrong. The thing that it had like switched a page when I said that, and so the highest Democrat score is a 22, and it's Ilhan Omar. She is the most conservative Democrat according
The
to
irony.
the.
is that House Democrat? What
yeah.
about Joe Manchin?
No. That's
all.
That's including all. That's including Senate and House.
Wow.
She is the most conservative Democrat
Anyway.
according to their freedom.
Anyway,
rating.
there are a lot of things that, like, issues that Mitt Romney has voted the right way.
So the
on.
average is probably around
But
10.
Clearly, he is better than he's marginally better than a Democrat. But I haven't fully answered the question: am I willing to vote for Romney because he's marginally better, or am I willing to just not vote for him because he is not the person that I'm willing to represent me? You know what I mean? I haven't quite answered that question, but because Romney is marginally better than a Democrat, I would opt to just vote for Romney, believing the real fight was in the primaries.
I think a lot of that kind of goes to Mike's point with the just the system as a whole of education, all that is, you open up your your history books and all that, and all you see at the beginning of the presidential thing, they have them listed by their parties and all that stuff. You see Whig and all this stuff, and then you see Republican, Democrat, blah, 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 blah. And then you're basically taught through school and media and other things. That's it. There's just the two choices.
Yeah.
And people get so locked into this thing of laziness controls everything you do in life, whether you overcome it or you succumb to it. Laziness decides what you're doing. And in this scenario of Romney versus pick a Democrat,
Yeah.
oh, Romney's a little bit better. I could do more research to see who better represents what I want to happen.
Do it during the primaries.
Right. But primaries happen, and now it's November. I could do more homework to see if there's somebody else that represents me more and vote for them.
And then you'll lose. You might as well not vote.
You voted in the primary and you lost. You might as well not vote. You voted a Republican and the Republican lost. You might as well not vote. That argument is bullshit.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you lose or not. The principle of it is you're voting for what you want.
And
if you are always voting red or blue, not voting what you want, then it's your fault.
And this is
what's there.
This is what the Freedom Caucus proved.
And that's where my divergence is. I don't blame the voter because they voted red. I blame the education. I blame the voter that they didn't even consider another party that more aligned with their beliefs.
Right. And that's part of the allure with the ranked choice voting.
Yeah.
I don't think I like it overall, but I like the idea of it.
Yeah.
Because then you could actually have people say, well, I want to vote for this third party. And if they lose, then vote for the Republican.
Yeah. That's fair.
How much would that change everything if that actually played out the way it's supposed to play out?
And the idea that voting for anybody other than red or blue is throwing away your vote is part of that education that they do. They push that because then they can push certain candidates into the primaries. They can control who's in the primaries. They can control these different things. And then you only have a couple of options in the primaries. Well, you know, I mean, even look at the primaries. Who's running against Romney?
I don't even know.
Exactly. Neither do I. And so you don't even know the other guy. So who are you going to vote for in the primary?
And then on top of that,
so Romney wins the primary, and then you're faced with the choice of Romney or a Democrat. Who do you vote for?
And then on top of that, places like here in Utah, people have no idea how the actual system works.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Because
not a clue.
Education
doesn't teach you. Because they teach you to go vote on
November.
vote day, but they don't teach you anything about the primaries.
They don't teach you anything about the national debt either.
Which
No,
in some
they
states,
don't teach you anything.
In some states starts in March.
Which is why, you know, and that's the main reason why I try to pull myself away from blaming the voter.
Yeah.
Because if I was going to blame the voter, I could blame the voter for not voting a third party every time. So I could do that, you know, but I don't do that because I feel in my bones it's not necessarily because people really want these things. It's because they've been indoctrinated to do it the way they're doing it.
They think it's the only option.
They think it's the only option they have.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's
I
part
kind of agree, frankly, from a strategic standpoint. But again, like you said, I think it's because that's how it's always been done. You know, if you vote for a third party, each time you vote for third party, you know that everyone else is going to vote red or blue, and so therefore it's like throwing your vote away for each individual election. But but if you keep doing that, and if others like you keep doing that, then presumably the third party might have better and better choices.
And that's basically what the Freedom Caucus just proved.
Yeah.
If those 20
I don't follow.
If those 20 were libertarians, that would change everything. Because the Republicans and the Democrats would have to work with them to get something done. Because it has to be the majority leader. Well, the majority leader has to have the majority of the votes. Right?
So,
Yeah.
So if those 20...
But again,
technically, shouldn't the minority leader be an independent because there's only 2 independents in the House? So
the minority leader is the second most votes.
so
But yes.
in most jurisdictions,
it's not a minority leader. It's a second place leader.
in most jurisdictions, you have to win a plurality of the vote, not a majority of the vote.
Yes.
Yes.
So if the Freedom Caucus were any typical state, then a Democrat would be the Speaker of the House right now.
No.
Because in the first vote, the Democrat won a plurality.
No, they have to have the majority of the
I
votes.
know that's the rules for the Speaker vote, which is why it played out the way it did.
Yes.
But I'm just saying, in an average jurisdiction where you only need a plurality,
He's talking about the states.
Yes.
Yeah,
But
had the speaker vote gone according to the rules of a typical state, then a Democrat would have won. So
Okay.
those Freedom Caucus, even though they're freedom-loving Republicans, they would have caused the Democrat to win under
right.
normal House rules.
Right.
And so that's the calculus that the
And
average
that's-
citizen has to consider.
That's the difference between a democracy and a republic.
So now, though, take a state that has all kinds of 50-50 whatevers,
like Georgia. Yeah.
like
Where
Georgia.
you need to win a majority to win, at least in the Senate.
Yeah,
I don't know
but-
about the other rules.
But you have this little chunk that is taken from basically the middle, so Democrat, Republican, this little chunk of libertarians or whatever party that are making it so neither side gets what they want. They have to appeal to that group in order to win.
Right.
And
I see what you're saying. So what you're saying is the strategy of voting third party is this third party candidate stands for particular values that appeal to you. And even though you're going to lose this election, they will know that when the next election comes around, the mainstream party is going to be like, okay, so we lost to the Democrat this time. How can I pick up the votes from this third party candidate to vote for me? I need to appeal to this group.
Right.
So that's what you're saying. That's the strategy. It's a losing strategy for each individual election, but maybe down the road as a group, the mainstream candidate will pay attention to you in future elections.
And the interesting thing is, if you look at it at a micro instead of a macro, libertarians actually do win elections. They win locally.
oh yeah, they win
Quite a bit.
They win city, county elections all the time.
They win city and county elections all the time because people are much more involved and actually understand what's going on in their neighborhood than they do in the country. And there's no like extra rules and things in the local elections. So when it comes to a local election, people go and they go, oh, this guy likes this, and this, and I like this, and this. I'm going to vote for that guy.
And on top of that, he's my neighbor. I know it.
Yeah, and on top of that, he's my neighbor. I know him. And then you have libertarian council members. You have libertarian not governors, but well, I mean, you might have a governor somewhere. I don't actually know if there's any libertarian governors.
No, not currently. No.
You have libertarians sitting in city and county councils.
There's
and
probably
all
some
these
even in
different
state
things.
houses.
Yeah, there's probably some even in state houses. And so the libertarians can win elections.
And this isn't saying that the libertarian is the answer.
No,
It's just a third party.
It's just a third, like the most prominent third party that's been there, and so if it works on the micro,
It can work.
it can work on the macro.
just needs education.
If it weren't for the education.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think you need a strategy in order for it to work in the macro, like an incredible strategy. But yeah, I think that what you said about, you might lose this election, but maybe in future elections, the mainstream candidate will try to appeal to the third party group. I think that's a good argument. And whether or not you actually vote for a third party or the mainstream party, I think the difference between that is just your risk appetite and how much you want to win this election.
And then you're conscious too of
So
if you're able to sleep at night with who you vote for.
yeah, that's true. Anyway,
That.
moving
I can't
on.
sleep at night if I vote for Romney, so I never will.
That's fair.
Ever.
I
I don't care who he's running against.
I haven't decided. I'll make that
I
decision
will vote
in
for
2024.
literally anyone else.
So going back to my original questions on how do we turn this around?
On your
Let me ask
on your first question.
on why the voters don't deserve freedom. Talking me out of why the voters don't deserve freedom.
Here's my answer. Nobody deserves freedom.
Fair.
Nobody deserves it. You earn freedom.
Yeah.
Freedom
And if
is
we don't-
earned. It is not given.
And if we don't collectively
And that's why we are where
fight
we are.
for freedom, like if the average citizen doesn't fight for freedom, they can't be surprised when inflation goes through the roof and when they don't have freedoms.
And when
anymore.
you're told that you can't have a gas stove anymore.
when you can't,
That's a new thing.
or
by the way.
gardens, or
Yeah.
or your kids have to be indoctrinated into this set of values.
Yes.
Like we can't be surprised if the citizens collectively aren't fighting for
Technically, you don't need everyone. You only need
And-
1/3.
freedom. So
Just saying.
And my second question on how we turn this around, my answer to that is we need to be fearless and influential in our daily lives.
Yes.
And make good candidates an option. And as for being influential, I just have a question about social pressure. Over the course of just a few years, the left somehow culturally declared that if you don't believe that a woman can have penises, then you are an evil bigot.
Uh-huh.
And it worked.
Yes, because
Can you explain to me how it worked?
Indoctrination.
the conversation we just had.
The entire conversation we just had. Yes, that is the explanation.
That and people are too spineless. Back to the theme for the year. People don't want to offend anyone, and if you can't say anything without worrying about being offensive, you can never fully tell the truth.
Yeah.
As opposed,
I am a woman. No, you're not. That's great you think that, but you're not.
I think
that's offensive. Oh, I'm sorry.
Well,
I
no,
take back
but
everything I said.
when you preach something like, tolerance or whatever, there's another side to that.
Yeah.
Because they're also implying that if you don't believe the way that they do, they are very exclusionary and non-accepting to those that don't affirm their own belief system. And so they have a dimension of hatefulness and bigotry themselves. So how do we turn that around?
Opposed to popular belief, I don't believe that the natural state of people is actually conflict.
No, it is not.
I believe that the natural state of people are naturally gregarious.
Lazy.
Conflict, and lazy.
Back what I said before, people are lazy. Laziness controls what you do.
Yeah. Conflict comes from when people congregate together and then two separate congregations have differences that they can't resolve. That's what leads to the majority of conflict in our world.
That's what makes America.
But on an individual basis, one individual with another individual, they will usually try their best not to cause friction with each other because they don't like the confrontation.
Uh-huh.
People in general don't enjoy the confrontation.
So that's
And
why
so-
a third of Republican, senators or whatever are willing to just go along with whatever the Democrats
Spineless,
are
yes.
because the Democrats will not move.
Yes, exactly.
And so they're like, all right, to move on with my day, I have to just
And the
give in to
Democrats
them.
will not move because they know the Republicans will yield every time.
Yeah.
Why surrender ground when you know that your enemy is just going to retreat?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so
All right.
when you're talking about fixing it, the only real way to fix it is to replace the parts that are broken,
Yeah.
which is
And
Yeah.
and the more that the more and kind of like Mike said, the more that third party vote grows, the more the other two parties will realize something's wrong, especially the one that's losing the most people.
Yeah.
They have to make a change, whether they believe in the change or not. They have to make a change to stay in power.
And to be clear, I'm not advocating just go and vote any third party anytime you do
No.
anything.
Depends on the election and the candidate.
It depends. Well, not just that. It depends on the individual. It depends on the person you're voting for.
Yeah.
My advocacy is vote for the person that most aligns with your standards. Period. Regardless of anything else.
For example, if you live in Vermont, Patrick Leahy is a senator that represents you with a 0% Liberty score. He's a
Whoa.
he's a Democrat.
I'm surprised.
48 years in
To
Washington,
put that
D.C.
in context, Bernie Sanders has a 5% Liberty score.
And he's an
And he is
out
an
and out socialist.
out socialist. Yes.
So Patrick Leahy, 0% Liberty score, Vermont, Democrat, 48 years in D.C. What the hell do you have to lose voting for a third party?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you can't get much worse than that.
No. And along with that is, so I have it ranked by years in D.C. On this first page of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. On this first page of 10 politicians, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 of them are Republican. And Nancy Pelosi is one of the Democrats at 36 years, and she's the bottom of that list of 10. So, if you're in Michigan, one of the areas there is represented by Fred Upton from the GOP with a 34% Liberty score. What do you have to lose voting for a third-party member who would have a 60% Liberty score? 100% Liberty score. Because according to this, you're getting just barely above a Democrat with him.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, no, I definitely do agree that that's a good argument, what you said about you might lose this election, but at least you voted for the candidate that most aligns with your values. And over time, if enough people vote third party, the mainstream candidate will try to appeal to that third party.
Yeah, and you're showing that you're not just going to keep going along with what's been happening.
And yeah.
Which is how you get put on government lists.
Anyway,
this has been your How to Piss Off the Government episode.
What do you mean I can't fly?
Anyway. What do you mean I can't fly?
And so,
what the hell is a domestic terrorist?
I haven't beat anyone. My wife's fine.
Oh, different. I think we can combine both solutions of the primaries or the real election.
Yes.
And once you lose that election, consider third party, and whether you actually pull the trigger for a third party just depends on your,
what level of conviction you're at.
Yeah. Your risk calculations.
I can't even vote in the Republican primary.
And so
I'm a registered independent.
Anyway, and so and that leads us to my broad solution, making good candidates a good option, or making good candidates at least an option. And that leads us to Ron DeSantis.
Ron DeSantis.
I'd vote the shit out of that ballot.
One of the founding members of the Freedom Caucus, I'll have you know. That was something something that NBC or someone like that tried to point out as a dig against DeSantis. Ron DeSantis was a founding member of the Freedom Caucus that's currently holding up Congress.
Well, he's my favorite again.
Well, give me more reasons to vote for him.
Can only get so much of an erection.
I can only get so erect.
You guys.
Keith's turning red.
Election. Let's go with election.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Can only vote for him so many times in an election.
So we're over an hour into this recording, so I think we'll just highlight.
Do it.
Do you want to highlight or do you want to watch the thing?
I say we watch the thing.
I say we watch the thing.
Okay, the people have spoken.
I mean, if you have a highlight, that'd be fine. The whole thing was highlighted.
If I didn't highlights,
if I didn't move this last week, if I had a desk to sit at and highlight things.
You know that time when you flipped open the scriptures and you looked inside and everything was highlighted?
This is that time.
This is that time.
Yeah.
No, seriously, I actually do think that the whole thing is a highlight.
Oh, the whole thing is a highlight. No, it's 20 minutes long, but dude.
Could you play it at like 1.25 speed?
Maybe. Get to where you
Can you change the speed on this?
No, you totally can.
Oh, you totally can.
Where is that in the settings?
Yeah, in
Yeah,
settings.
yeah, if you click the little cog.
Normal playback speed.
Uh-huh.
1.25. That should
All
be good
right.
enough.
Let's
That'll
see how
speed
his
things
voice
up
sounds a
bit.
little faster than normal.
It'll sound like a
normal to me.
Smurf.
Let me make sure. Got this.
Smurf, yeah.
That? Nope. Yep.
So it'll be 16 minutes instead of 20. Roughly. Like 16 and a half.
At this point, we should have just played it.
Whoops.
Just hit the play button.
I'm trying to get it so it's visually appropriate on the video stuff.
Okay.
I'm trying to be nice to people.
Technically, his
And-
speech ends at like 16:23.
Yeah,
so
so it's not as
All right.
it's not as long as the whole 20 minutes.
The governor of the great free state of Florida.
Future president.
The streets. and who keep our communities safe. It lives in the
sorry.
industry.
You did a bad thing.
Freedom lives
There we go.
here in our great sunshine state of Florida.
Yes, sir.
So he's giving a speech after he was sworn in for a second term.
His inauguration speech, yes.
I love the ASL person.
Yes.
It lives in the courage of those who patrol the streets and who keep our communities safe. It lives in the industry of those who work long hours to earn a living and raise their families. It lives in the dedication of those who teach our
She's
children.
dancing.
It lives in the determination of those who grow our food. It lives in the wisdom of our senior citizens. It lives in the dreams of the historic number of families who have moved from states across this country because they saw Florida as the land of liberty and the land of sanity.
Yes.
Over the past few years, as so many states in our country grinded their citizens down, we in Florida lifted our people up. When other states consigned their people's freedom to the dustbin, Florida stood strongly as freedom's linchpin. When the world lost its mind, when common sense suddenly became an uncommon virtue, Florida was a refuge of sanity, a citadel of freedom for our fellow Americans and even for people around the world. In captaining the ship of state, we choose to navigate the boisterous sea of liberty rather than cower in the calm docks of despotism.
I love the way that he just kind of rapped there for a second. Did you catch
Yes,
that?
yes, especially in this faster speed.
We face attacks, we take hits, but we weather the storms. We stand our ground, and we do what's right.
So I just want to point out, has he said I yet?
Nope.
Okay.
As the book of Psalms reminds us, I will not fear though tens of thousands assail me on every side. We have refused to use polls and to put our finger in the wind. Leaders do not follow, they lead. We have articulated a vision for a free and prosperous state. We have, through persistence and hard work, executed on that vision. We have produced favorable results. And now we are here today because the people of Florida have validated our efforts in record fashion.
Dude, the sign language at 1.25 speed is freaking phenomenal.
Florida shows
got some
that
sick moves.
results matter. We lead not by mere words, but by deeds. 4 years ago, we promised to pursue a bold agenda. We did just that, and we have produced results. We said we would ensure that Florida taxed lightly, regulated reasonably, and spent conservatively, and we delivered. We promised we would enact big education reforms, and we delivered.
Quick drink. You're talking fast there.
We said we would end judicial activism by appointing jurists who understand the proper role of a judge is to apply the law as written,
Yes.
not legislate from the bench, and we delivered.
Yes.
We promised to usher in a new era of stewardship for Florida's natural resources by promoting water quality and Everglades restoration efforts, and we delivered.
Governor things.
Oh, ad. Boo.
Just a second, you guys.
Boo. I should have had it playing
We
to
said
skip
we
all
would
the
stand
ads.
for law and order and support the men and women of
Should
law
have
enforcement.
logged into my
and
account.
we
Mine's
delivered.
ad-free.
Every time.
We promised to remedy deficiencies in Florida's election administration and to hold wayward officials accountable, and we delivered. We said we would support the areas in Northwest Florida stricken by Hurricane Michael, and we delivered.
A point on that. Not once did he appear in front of a camera, in front of a destroyed bridge, or anything like that, saying, we're going to get this done. We've got people on the...
Oh, the photo op thing that
Never did a photo op.
politicians do?
Not a single photo op. In fact, while California was floundering with whatever garbage it had to deal with... Oh, the power outage. While California was floundering with its power outage, Florida recovered from 2 hurricanes.
Yep.
Completely recovered from 2 hurricanes in the amount of time that California figured out what to do with its power.
Yeah.
And that included Florida figuring out what to do with its power that was destroyed by a hurricane. California just ran out of power.
Too many Teslas.
And when Hurricane Ian came last year, the state coordinated a massive mobilization of response personnel, facilitated the fastest power restoration on record, and even quickly rebuilt key bridges that had been wiped out by the storm.
California roads still under construction.
We have stood by the people of Southwest Florida, and we will continue to do so in the weeks, months, and years ahead. Because of these efforts and others, Florida is leading the nation.
Yes,
we
they
are
are.
#1 in these United States in net in-migration.
Yes.
We are the nation's fastest growing state.
Yes.
We are #1 in new business formations. We are #1 in tourism. We are #1 in economic freedom.
wanna go back to
we rank #1 in education
Yes.
freedom.
It was fun.
And we rank #1 in parental involvement in education.
Yes, sir.
That's really impressive.
That really is
all of that
impressive.
stuff that he just
Florida
listed.
also ranks #1 in public higher education. This is a record we can all be proud of.
Something that I found out about on the way here. There's a university in Florida that's been floundering for the last umpteen years. Because they keep trying to do all this woke stuff, and shockingly, it doesn't work.
Shockingly.
DeSantis just installed an entire new board at the university because they were thinking of shutting it down and reallocating resources. And they're already calling it the, what's that?
Oh, I know what you're talking
Constitutional
about.
University.
Hillsdale?
Yeah, Hillsdale
of the South,
right?
Is what they're calling it already.
Good.
Because he's got the guy that does Hillsdale is the new dean.
Nice.
Oh, nice.
That's how you turn it around.
That's how you turn it around.
And the one of the guys on the board or
I
whatever.
do love Hillsdale.
One of the guys on the board is one of the first people to point out the CRT crap that started in all schools. Is
I took
now
a
in
I took
charge
an
of this
I
university.
actually took a small economics course on
From
Hillsdale, one of their free ones, and it was taught by Professor Wolf, and the curriculum for it was the Capitalist Manifesto. The book is like that big.
Yes, winning.
But it is beautiful.
Who wrote the Capitalist Manifesto?
Wolf.
Like any
I
good
have it
professor,
somewhere.
you get the book that they
That's
wrote.
pretty sweet. That's pretty sweet.
Prop hunt.
All right, press play.
But
See
we're
if I can
far from
find it
done.
for next time.
Florida's accumulated a record budget surplus, and we need to enact record tax relief, particularly for Florida families who are grappling with inflation.
Yes.
We must ensure school systems are responsive to parents and to students, not partisan interest groups.
Yes.
This is like the biggest ovation that he gets. One of them.
And we must ensure that our institutions of higher learning are focused on academic excellence and the pursuit of truth, not the imposition of trendy ideologies.
Trendy ideologies. What a great label.
Florida must always be a great place to raise a family. We will enact more family-friendly policies to make it easier to raise children, and we will defend our children against those who seek to rob them of their innocence.
Yes. His biggest standing ovation. I wonder what they voted
Protecting
for.
the children.
All right,
Stop
I'm standing
it!
here in
Oh,
front of the federal
Epic
courthouse in
Times?
Washington, D.C., and inside
We
is
really
the
need to
first
get you a
jury.
free account, Trevor.
Yeah.
We have an ad-free account. I have an ad-free account.
We already have it.
We will always remain a law and order state. We will always support law enforcement, and we will always reject soft on crime policies that put our communities at risk. Florida is now in a golden era for conservation of our treasured natural resources. Our momentum is strong, and we will finish what we started. We will leave Florida to God better than we found it.
There you go. That's a good one.
This much we pledge and so much more. Now, it's often said that our federalist constitutional system, with 50 states able to pursue their own unique policies, represents a laboratory of democracy. Well, these last few years have witnessed a great test of governing philosophies, as many jurisdictions pursued a much different path than we have pursued here in the state of Florida. The policies pursued by these states have sparked a mass exodus of productive Americans from these jurisdictions, with Florida serving as the most desired destination, a promised land of sanity. Many of these cities and states have embraced faddish ideology at the expense of enduring principles. They've harmed public safety by coddling criminals and attacking law enforcement. They've imposed unreasonable burdens on taxpayers to finance unfathomable levels of public spending. They have harmed education by subordinating the interests of students and parents to partisan interest groups. They have imposed medical authoritarianism in the guise of pandemic mandates and restrictions that lack a scientific basis. This bizarre but prevalent ideology that permeates these policy measures purports to act in the name of justice for the marginalized, but it frowns upon American institutions. It rejects merit and achievement, and it advocates identity essentialism. We reject this woke ideology.
Yes.
We seek normalcy, not philosophical lunacy. We will not allow reality, facts, and truth to become optional. We will never surrender to the woke mob. Florida is where woke goes to die.
Oh, what a good line. That is like really standing up for principles and not.
Is it getting hot in here? Is that just me?
Now, Florida's success has been made more difficult by the floundering federal establishment in Washington, D.C. Federal government has gone on an inflationary spending binge that has left our nation weaker and our citizens poorer. It has enacted pandemic restrictions and mandates based more on ideology and politics than on sound science, and this has eroded freedom and stunted commerce. It has recklessly facilitated open borders, making a mockery of the rule of law, allowing massive amounts of narcotics to infect our states, importing criminal aliens, and greenlighting the flow of millions of illegal aliens into our country, burdening communities and taxpayers throughout the land. It has imposed an energy policy that has crippled our nation's domestic production, causing energy to cost more for our citizens and eroding our nation's energy security and, in the process, our national security. It wields its authority through a sprawling, unaccountable, and out-of-touch bureaucracy that does not act on behalf of us, but instead looms over us and imposes its will upon us.
Thank you.
The results of this have been predictably dismal. This has caused many to be pessimistic about the country's future. Some even say that failure is inevitable. Florida is proof positive that we, the people, are not destined for failure.
What a great line.
Yes.
Decline is a choice.
Yep.
Success is attainable. And freedom is worth fighting for. Now, fighting for freedom is not always easy because the threats to freedom are more complex and more widespread than they have been in the past. The threats can come from entrenched bureaucrats in D.C., jet setters in Davos, and corporations wielding public power. But fight we must. We embrace our founding creed that our rights are not granted by the courtesy of the state, but are endowed by the hand of the Almighty. We reject the idea that self-government can be subcontracted out to technocratic elites who reduce human beings to mere data points. We insist on the restoration of time-tested constitutional principles so that government of, by, and for the people shall not perish from this earth.
Yes. Talk freedom to me.
Florida has led the way in preserving what the father of our country called the sacred fire of liberty. It is the fire that burned in Independence Hall when 56 men pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor to establish a new nation conceived in liberty. It's the fire that burned at a cemetery in Gettysburg when the nation's first Republican president pledged to this nation a new birth of freedom. It's the fire that burned among the boys who stormed the beaches of Normandy to liberate a continent and to preserve freedom for the world. It's the fire that infused the young preacher's dream, relayed at the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, that the Declaration of Independence said what it meant and meant what it said. All men are created equal. It is the fire that led a resolute president to stand in Berlin and declare, tear down this wall, staring down the communists and winning the Cold War. It is our responsibility here in Florida to carry this torch. We do not run from this responsibility. We welcome it. We will be on our guard. We will stand firm in the faith. We will be courageous. We will be strong. And we thank God and are proud to be citizens of the great free state of Florida. Thank you. God bless you. God bless this state and everybody throughout the land.
And God bless Governor Ron DeSantis. Yes, sir.
I want to point out that right after his speech, someone goes straight into a prayer. Like they prayed at the, inauguration event. Do states do that still? Like, is that a normal thing, or is that like depending on the leader or governor?
It's a normal thing for the federal level. And Washington led the way for that. Marched everyone down to marched them down to church to have a sermon.
Yeah. Anyway, didn't mean to change the subject here. Let's talk about Ron DeSantis.
Ron DeSantis is basically the answer.
So
everything that he talks about there is everyone knows what conservatism is.
Yeah.
He's showing what it does.
Yeah, no. So something I learned from just that speech, so the inspiration that I'm getting from Ron DeSantis, he's such an inspiring figure. Like, he is my hero, seriously. Is I was just focusing on who's to blame, and we're screwed because the debt is increasing. I feel like he was very aware of that reality, but he has a plan to deal with it.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? Like, that is extremely strong leadership. So what I can learn from him is to acknowledge the reality without being consumed by it. And rather than focus on the dismal reality, focus on what could be, what we could accomplish together. Anyway, that's what I learned just from that one speech, that I could be more focusing on the vision without being consumed by the dismal reality.
Right.
That's just from that one speech.
And like I said, last year after the elections, I think what we'll see with at least the next couple of years with DeSantis is how good of a leader he really is, because Republicans now have a veto majority in the Florida House and Senate, which, well, yeah, that's a good thing because you got all three houses. If it's full of rhino Republicans, we'll find out if they actually are following DeSantis's lead or if they did everything they could to get power to override DeSantis.
Gotcha.
So
Did you say it's Republicans that have a veto majority?
Yeah, Republicans have veto-proof majority in the House and the Senate in Florida. So they could propose something like, let's give Disney back its tax-exempt stuff that we took away last year. And DeSantis will veto it, but they'll turn around and override the veto and start undoing the stuff that DeSantis has done. That's going to be the real test, is did he lead well enough to get enough actual conservatives in there to help push him forward and to help lead that state as a shining light on the hill for the rest of the country. That's what I'm going to be watching for the next 2 years. He's in office for 4. Is he?
No, my favorite thing about the midterms was right after Ron DeSantis won re-election by a ridiculous landslide. His followers were chanting 2 more years.
Yeah. You don't see that. Yeah. Usually people don't want to give up an amazing leader from their state. They want them to stay there so they can keep having, because we're selfish.
So for those of you that didn't catch the implication there, a governor's term is 4 years. So 2 more years would imply that he's running for president. And that's what the supporters in Florida wanted. I just love that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good. What's your biggest takeaway, Mike?
DeSantis is awesome.
DeSantis is awesome. You heard it here first.
Let's just wrap that all up in a neat little package. And
I like that, Bo.
there we go. No, it's this is the second time I watched it, and I still love every word he said.
I can't find fault with the man.
That's actually kind of hard for me because I especially where politicians are concerned.
Oh yeah,
I always try to find the thing I disagree with them on.
You're gonna screw up eventually.
Like I know there's something that you're doing that I don't like. I know there is. I'm gonna find it.
And then I'm going to convince myself that doesn't matter.
And then I'm going to compare it to the things that I don't like on every other politician and think you're all right where you're at. You know, like with Mike Lee, there's some things I disagree with him on, but for the most part, I'm okay with a lot of the way that he votes and some different stuff. You know, Romney, I'm not okay with anything he does.
But he voted in favor of the thing you like. Yes, but I think he did it for the wrong reason.
Yes, but he only did it. He only did it because he wanted to get reelected that year.
Exactly.
It's the only reason.
Yeah, watch
the other 3
watch his
years
Liberty score go up.
The other 3 years of every term, he votes exactly opposite of where I want him to vote.
Uh-huh.
But he seems to believe that there is this window of time where people will forget everything he did before if he just does right that 1 year.
And he's right every time that he does it.
Right every time, and it pisses me off. But DeSantis doesn't do that. DeSantis is up there on a lot of issues. I love the things that he's done in Florida. Almost he convinces me to be a Floridian. Almost.
Almost thou convinced me to be a Floridian.
If it weren't for the awful bugs and animals and things that live in Florida and the deep south, I live where the air hurts my face so that spiders and other creatures like that will go back to hell where they belong. At least for a few months of the year.
Something about a giant spider spanning a web between power lines just doesn't tickle my fancy.
Doesn't tickle my fancy.
Florida
you know?
is the number one state, as he said in the speech, where the most people are moving to Florida than any other state.
Yes. Well, and it's because of the things he's done there, because he has provided a safe haven for freedom and a bastion in the dark times.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not just that he's saying he has. It's that you can visibly see he has.
Yeah.
You know, he's toting all of these accomplishments and making all of these promises and saying all of these things, but then he's also doing them.
Yeah.
And that's the thing I like about DeSantis. Yeah. And you know, I've said it before, I'll probably say it again. You know, there is a massive gap between state politics and federal politics. Yes. And my greatest worry would be that he would get into federal politics and lose some of what he is on the state level. You know?
Well, that's what's interesting is he was at the federal already.
Yeah.
He was in the House.
Yep.
Yeah, he was.
Which he was the founding member of the Freedom
Caucus, right.
And he went to be governor.
And that's the balm on that worry is that he's been there before. He has done well in that setting.
Impressive resume.
You know, he does have an impressive resume. And so, you know, there's a lot of potential there, and I would love to see him make a bid for president.
Yes.
I would love to.
Yep.
And I'd vote for him.
Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't vote third party in that instance. I would vote for DeSantis.
Because he fits what I believe.
Because he does, yeah. Like I said, I do that with every type of politician. I mean, there's and the worst enemy of libertarians is libertarians. So...
Amen to that.
Because they can't agree on anything, ever.
Yes.
You know?
Well, they all agree on pot.
Oh, that's fair.
Oh, yeah. That's fair. What they stand
should be
for,
legal.
all right. Anyway.
Safe, legal, and very not rare.
To the point where sometimes that's all you know about them because that's all they put on their billboards.
Right.
We'll legalize pot. That's basically a thing already, guys. We get it.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, that's my take on it. I'd love to see a presidential bid out of him.
Yep.
It would definitely be better than Trump.
Yes.
As much as I loved President Trump's first term,
You know,
I don't think he deserves anything.
He's done what needed to be done.
As many things as I liked that Trump did, there were an equal number of things that Trump did that I didn't like.
Let's just say he's too old now.
And I am so glad that his bump stock
I agree.
ban got overturned.
Yes.
Oh,
Thank
yeah.
heaven.
That happened. That happened. This
Win
week.
for the 2A.
You're going to get sick of losing. You're sick of winning. Whatever he said.
Anyway, we'll talk more about Trump and DeSantis later this year, I'm sure.
In news that surprises none of us, the House GOP has located emails and text messages showing that Pelosi's office directly involved in the failed January 6th security.
I'm pretty sure we've
Oh, yeah.
we've
By the
actually
way,
talked about that before.
I put all
Yeah.
my emotion into the budget for this year and the speaker fight. By the way, apparently January 6th was an inside job.
Shocker.
I did not have the emotional capacity to process that one, but there you go.
Color me surprised.
All right, tell us
pretty
more
sure
about
that
it,
we've
Trevor.
said that like since January 6th.
Yeah. Yeah, Mike and I have
Yeah, that's fair.
covered this.
It's technically not new information. We have some marginal additional evidence.
It's like the Twitter files have been. It's like, yeah, Twitter's been censoring stuff. Like, yeah, we know.
I don't.
Well, yeah, but now we have proof of it. I mean, yeah, true.
We
So
already
it doesn't fundamentally change.
we already
anything. We
knew
just
that.
have
What are
some-
you gonna do about it?
We have a little bit of proof that validates what we all thought from the beginning. Tell us
Yeah.
more about it, Trevor.
Yeah. So they were in communications with the sergeant at arms, and they told him, "We need you to act surprised at the lack of security." He's, well, consider me surprised.
You know, once you get past the tragedy of it, it's really quite hilarious.
Yeah. And, you know, never mind that Nancy Pelosi just happened to have a filming crew there on that day where she said, when all of this started, she said to the filming crew, like, finally I can go punch Trump in the face or something like that.
Yeah.
It's finally started or something. Yeah, and never mind that there's 700 or there's 900 some odd people that have been in prison for over 700 days without trial,
Which is
since January 6th because they
illegal and unconstitutional.
walked into the Capitol building through unlocked doors and barricades that police moved aside.
Let me guess what they're trying to use to justify that. The Patriot Act?
Oh, surprise!
Surprise!
Yep.
They're keeping people with no trial in jail
Oh, yeah.
since January 6th
Oh, yeah.
because of the Patriot Act.
Basically.
Oh, my
Probably.
gosh.
That's a good,
I think
good chunk
I
of
think
it.
someone told me that, but I forgot about it, and now
Yeah,
the
there's-
emotional impact of that is hitting me once again.
Because the Patriot Act allowed certain things like that with relation to terrorism,
And it didn't define what terrorism
and it didn't
is.
define what terrorism means.
I know there are innocent people in there. They're like, no,
Oh, yeah.
I was in the wrong tour.
The grand majority of them are innocent, as proven by...
You just gestured towards all of Pelosi.
I feel like that Will Smith meme.
Yes. Yeah. There's one guy I just listened to on a podcast. He called in from prison. He'd been there for 740 something days, so over 2 years.
Oh,
now,
gosh.
officially. But he admits that yes, I was violent there because the police were killing people, and so I was defending people who could not defend themselves from the police. And he talks about, I can't remember the lady's name, not Ashley Babbitt, but a different part of the Capitol where police were just beating people with clubs and kicking them on the ground, basically curb stomping people.
Yeah.
He was trying to defend those people from getting beat by the police. Yeah, and his trial is coming up real quick, except for they appealed the charge that was dropped against him, so they're going to wait until August, I think he said, for the trial.
Are you kidding me?
Just to see if the appeal will go through so they can still charge him for that and lock him in jail for 20 years in federal prison. Yeah. 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 Oh, by the way, the guy that planted the pipe bombs, 2 of them, not in custody.
Of course not.
The guy that...
Why would he be?
The guy that went ahead of the crowd to cut fencing and climbed up on scaffolding and got on a bullhorn and told everyone to move forward, move into the Capitol, not in custody. The guy that sent out a text message to his son, Ray Epps, I orchestrated the whole thing. I was there. I did it all. I was in front with a few others. I also orchestrated it, he said. Not in custody. But the old lady that walked through the unlocked door, escorted by police, she's in prison for a few years because
She entered a public building.
Entered a public building with police waving her into the building. Yeah. Yeah.
So in other words, there were key figures that, shall we say, orchestrated it, admitted they orchestrated it, and those people are absolutely protected from the law, and the people who wandered into the public building because the police gestured to wander into the public building, they are in jail because reasons.
I could postulate that
they were parading, Keith. They were parading
a group, let's call them a shadowy cabal, may or may not have had a hand in the most safe and fair election. I mean, the January 6th riots.
No, so I actually read some fact checks on the Ray Epps thing. So Ray Epps, he texted his, I believe, nephew, it was, saying, oh, I orchestrated the whole thing. And he's also on video on January 5th telling a crowd of people that we need to go into the Capitol.
Yes.
And that video also has the people in the video chanting, Fed, 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 accusing him of being a federal agent.
Yes.
Trying to stir up the crowd. And the fact checks are saying, oh, well, no, he didn't orchestrate it because, you see, we asked him recently what he meant. And Ray Epps said, oh, I orchestrated the whole thing. And then I guess these fact checkers or someone asked him, oh, well, what did you mean by that, Mr. Epps? Oh, well, I didn't mean I actually orchestrated it. Oh, okay, that makes sense. And that's basically their fact check. They say, like, he said he didn't.
This man's accused of murder. There's blood on his hands and everything. I didn't do it. He says he didn't do it.
Contrasting that with the
fact check. He says he didn't do
Trump investigation, where Trump literally said, peacefully protest and make your voices heard. And they're like, see, he orchestrated violence. Contrasting those things, it's almost as if
the funniest thing to me.
They orchestrated it.
The funniest thing to me is how, like, if you were to go through all the stuff that Trump said, all the stuff that Trump tweeted, all the stuff that Trump did throughout the entire thing there, all of his tweets, all of the things he said was peacefully, respectfully. It was,
and those are the last tweets you see on his Twitter page right now.
Yeah, exactly. It was do it in an
right.
appropriate way, and let's not make this something that it shouldn't be, type of thing.
Uh-huh.
You know, and yet I saw a thing today where somebody was talking about it, and they were like, he was actively promoting violence. He shouldn't be on Twitter. He shouldn't be on these social platforms. And it's like, are you brain dead?
Yes.
Did you read or look at anything he actually said or did? Because none of that is that way. None of it.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, and also, never mind that. So those pipe bombs. One was at the Republican National Building, and the other was at the Democrat National Building. They found the Republican one first, 20 minutes before they were supposed to vote on everything. And the timer only had 20 minutes left on it. But it was planted at 8 o'clock the night before. And so was the Democrat one. And it was a little kitchen timer, which is about an hour.
Oh, implying that it was planted much more recently after.
Well, no. The timer, luckily, stopped working with 20 minutes left.
Isn't that lucky?
And they found it 20 minutes before they were going to vote. And then they found the Democrat one later, which is odd because we found out a year after the fact that Kamala Harris was actually at the Democrat building. And Secret Service had done a sweep of the building and the grounds. And there's a security guard posted 10 feet away from where the bomb was planted in the open.
Oh, I see. So if you're saying that if it wasn't an inside job, they would have detected that thing.
Nobody reported the bomb until after the Republican one was found, 20 minutes beforehand, which they called Capitol Police over, saying, hey, there's a bomb over here. We need extra resources to make sure we clear everything out. Capitol Police head over to the Republican and Democrat buildings. The crowd goes over to the Capitol grounds, where there's less Capitol Police. By the way, they finally get Kamala Harris out of that Democrat building many minutes after the fact that they found a bomb. And it's, again, the Secret Service, which is the world's most premier protection agency. And their bomb-sniffing dogs didn't find the bomb when they did the initial sweep. The security guard for the building that's posted 10 feet away from the bomb, left out in the open, did not find it. And in their visual sweep, Secret Service did not find it until after the Republican one was found, which made everyone move into position to have less security at the Capitol building, which Donald Trump also asked Pelosi if, hey, do you want the National Guard for extra security? No, we don't want that. It's amazing that both of those bombs, both of them broke. It's all these coincidences that just lined up to keep everyone safe.
So bottom line is we have more proof that January 6th was an inside job, and you have to have a lot of faith in our institutions to believe the official narrative.
Yes.
So good luck to you.
Good luck. God bless.
This is the hardest thing about the stories like this, where, like, when January 6th happened, we sat here and we went through everything. And we went through the articles talking about it, and we looked at the stuff like the kitchen timer, and we looked at the stuff about Ray Epps, and we looked at the stuff about all these different people. And that day, well, not that day, because it was, the Tuesday after,
right,
when we talked about it, but the Tuesday after, when we talked about it, we went, this is wrong.
Something's up.
Something is off on this.
Uh-huh.
And it's now 2 years later.
The biggest tip-off to me was Alex Jones was there, and they weren't saying a thing about him being there.
Yeah.
It's like, he's like the guy.
And this is the way it was with Twitter. This is the way it was with almost every story we've covered where it's come out later that we were right, and they just barely found the evidence, because we picked through it and we're like, no, this doesn't look right. this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. And we have these things that we lay out, but we don't have the emails. We don't have these things, but we know it's wrong.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And we know it's wrong 2 years before they finally, well, it is not even it's 2 years before they find the evidence. It's 2 years before the media admits that there was other things that proved that it was wrong.
Yeah.
You know? Like, and what kind of reporting is that? This is literally 2 years. We were right about this 2 years ago.
Almost to the day.
Almost to the day. Exactly.
Happy January 6th, everybody.
And we had none of this information
right
to go off of.
All we had is the articles that were written about January 6th the week after it happened.
And the videos that we could find.
Exactly.
And the videos we found were like, that's... The police are letting people in at that door. The police just launched a gas canister into this crowd that wasn't doing anything.
Yeah.
What?
And
now that crowd's attacking the police.
And even then, we had the information about Trump talking to Pelosi and offering the National Guard for additional security and her turning it down. We had that the week after.
Yes,
We knew that was a thing the week after.
Uh-huh.
What? Like,
we're just a couple of guys in a basement.
I just don't understand how it takes this long for this stuff when it is so obvious.
Unless
that
you're
it
trying
is
to
wrong.
build some sort of narrative.
You know?
You're pulling the right levers at the right time to get the right talking points to get the right power that you need.
What do you think? That's what they do. They can make up anything.
Pretty much.
It's like people are desperate to have trust in our institutions, and the people who currently wield the authority of those institutions are abusing it like mad because they know of the indifference of the people.
Speaking of trusting and abusing institution, Department of Agriculture...
there is no abuse that happens in the USDA.
They've started a program where they're encouraging people to register their vegetable gardens for a national database.
I
That
appear to
doesn't
have
sound
lost my
suspicious.
garden in a tragic boating accident.
Go talk to the ATF. They have all the details. Same one.
That doesn't sound suspicious at all.
It was a small yacht. I borrowed it.
Now, Mike being someone where you wouldn't necessarily be growing a vegetable garden yourself.
No.
However, the implications
But I
of
would
this...
grow a cow.
The implications of this would mean
four.
it's not too far behind for them to say you need to register all your goats and cows and stuff on your...
I lost my goats and cows in a tragic boating accident. It was very Noah-esque.
What about that goat? It's not my goat.
It's not my goat.
You gonna kick it off your property? No.
No. He's free to wander.
Looks like he's doing fine. Yeah. Yeah, what could possibly go wrong with that? I don't really have details on it. I just know that's a thing, and it's... Don't register your vegetable garden.
Don't register. Don't register anything.
Make them know
please
that
don't.
is the greatest waste of time and resources ever, even though they already know it is.
So, Trevor, why would they want you to register your vegetable garden?
Because it's all about control. They want to... Because in order to register the garden, you have to meet certain criteria. And if you want to keep it registered, you have to keep following that criteria, just like any government program. Or if you want to be involved with the government program, you have to do what they say. And, you can't grow those carrots there. We're already growing carrots over here. You have to grow something else. But I don't want to grow something else. You need to grow cabbage. But I hate cabbage. That's too bad.
So, in other words, it's all about control, because if you can control the food supply, the water supply, the electricity, and name your other essential resource here. They can control you. So by having a registry, well, what do you know? You have to conform to certain regulations.
You will eat
and
the
then,
bugs.
Actual
and then they
wording
can
of
fine
this.
you for not following certain regulations. And so the average person will just say, okay, well, I guess it's not worth it to have a garden. And then suddenly you have hardly anyone with gardens.
Or they take your property away from you because you can't be responsible enough to have a garden.
Did you read the
So, in
actual
other words,
excerpts
so they can control you.
of what this is for?
Yeah, some of them are pretty bad.
I don't think I've heard a more Soviet Union thing come from our government.
Tell us your favorite ones.
The point of the USDA registration is to foster a more diverse and resilient local food system to empower communities to address issues like nutrition, access, and climate change.
See,
Right?
You
Okay.
had me at a convincing thing right until those last two words.
No, and if my research has proven anything to me, it's that the government doesn't give a shit about our nutrition.
Oh, you should listen to Glenn Beck's Third Hour.
Oh yeah, from today?
You'll like it.
Okay.
I'll check it out.
Okay, but it gets better. It gets better. Gets better. School gardens, community gardens, urban farms, and small-scale agriculture projects in rural, suburban, and urban areas can be recognized as a people's garden.
There it is.
Oh my gosh. So again,
We welcome gardens nationwide to join us in the People's Garden effort and all it represents.
I mean, going back to the Soviet Union episode where we briefly talked about like how the Soviet Union, so the body counts in both the Soviet Union and China were both caused by a people's garden because the government mandated that people collectively work on these farms and gave them these arbitrary numbers to go to, but they didn't have the tools to succeed. And because of that, there were food shortages. And that is what mainly caused all the body counts in both China and Russia.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with history that this is a bad idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I actually have the perfect thing to go with that article.
Pardon me, young man, and excuse the shit out of my goddamn French, but did you just threaten me?
Yeah, this is coming from the same government that's trying to tell you that Fruit Loops are healthier than eggs, and that Cheerios have more nutrition than steak. That's their current food guidelines.
Yeah.
At the FDA.
I just had a small stroke.
So one way that states are fighting back against inflation, to completely change the subject because I have no transition planned.
I'm listening.
What if every state adopted the gold standard?
Like separately? Through their own jurisdiction? So that would mean every state would have their own supply of gold. Interesting.
So in Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution, it says that no state shall make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts.
Well, what?
Yes, it does.
So this is in reference to before they all organized a federal system, you had a New Jersey dollar, a Delaware dollar, and all these things, and they didn't exchange because they weren't worth the same amount. New Jersey was going through major inflation while the Carolinas were doing really great. And so a dollar was actually worth like 100 New Jersey dollars, whatever. And so they said, hey, you can't be doing that. But you can still do gold and silver because we're doing a gold standard. Everything is based off the same thing. If you're making a gold coin, the gold is gold is gold is gold is gold.
Yes.
That's what that's in reference to.
As long as would help with the inflation going on. It would give the Fed a lot less power.
Yeah. So there are state laws in various states. What is it? 12 states, I think, currently, or about to be, where you can use, it is legal in these states to use gold or silver coin or whatever to pay for things.
How is the value determined, like legally?
It's the value of gold. So if you have an ounce of gold,
just the
it's
market
worth,
value
it's worth
that's
an ounce of
considered.
gold. Yeah.
Okay.
Utah was the first.
Hey, that's us.
Utah accepted gold and silver currency on March 10th, 2011, and became the first state after 80 years to make the coins legal tender. The act paved the way for other U.S. states to pursue similar legislation. So in Utah, there's the gold back. You can get a gold back, which is basically like a silver note or a gold note. It's 1, 10, 15, 20, things like that. And you can use it as tender in the state of Utah. Now, Walmart and places like that might have an issue with that. So that's not $10.
Well, they have an
but
issue
it
with
is
cash
$10
these days.
But I think this is an amazing idea. It's Utah, Louisiana, West Virginia, Arizona, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, Indiana, Missouri, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Wyoming. All have on the books or have to be voted on this year or next year. Laws.
I believe all of them have on the books now.
Yes.
I think the last one to come through was West Virginia. Went into effect in July 2019.
And Missouri is voting on Bill 98 this year. That's how I found out about
that's right.
this,
Yeah.
Missouri.
Okay. Yeah. So a similar act failed in 2013 and 2014.
Yeah.
That's why Missouri is still on the
Missouri
docket.
is
That's
on
right.
the books. They have it on the books to be voted on. But I love this idea because if every state adopts a gold standard, the Federal Reserve has zero power.
Yep. Which I'd be more than happy with.
And I just love the idea of taking some little silver coin or whatever to a Wally World saying, here's the money for my groceries.
Mm-hmm.
What am I supposed to do with that? Give me change.
In gold, by the way.
Yeah, this takes a ton of power away from the
It does, yeah.
federal government and
Well, the Fed.
from
yeah.
the
But
Federal
the Fed
Reserve.
is working in lockstep with the government lately, which they're not supposed to do.
Yes. But on top of that, it separates these states further and further from the inflation caused by the Federal Reserve.
Yeah.
So the sooner a state hops on board with this, the less likely they are to feel the ramifications of the Fed crashing. That'll never happen. How far in debt were we, Keith?
31 trillion.
31 trillion.
And that was before the bill that just passed.
Yeah. So, get yourself maybe look into some gold backs for your state or coinage, and just for fun, pay for something with it.
That would be fun, wouldn't it? I had a drive-through freak out when I tried to pay with a $2 bill one time.
This isn't real currency. The heck it is. Right there on the bottom says it's legal tender.
So that'll be more fun than paying with a $2 bill.
That being said, if it's an older $2 bill, why? It's worth so much more than $2. But, yeah. I love little things like this. Federalism in action.
Yes.
It's ironic that it's called federalism.
Yeah, we should
when
definitely vent about the Fed some
states
more in
doing-
future episodes. That sounds good.
states doing individual things instead of the federal government. But yeah. It's a great way to kick off the year.
Isn't it, though?
Bunch of representatives saying screw you to the system. A governor saying, see, this is what happens when you stick to saying screw you to the system. Being proven right after 2 years.
All right, I've heard enough. Deadly force authorized.
And states saying screw you to the system. That's offensive. Yep. Deal with it.
Do you hear that?
That's the sound
How
of
can I get on
forgiveness.
That's the
this
sound
action?
of people drowning, Carl.
That is what forgiveness sounds like. Screaming and then silence.
Yeah, there was a guy at work a little bit ago when that Marriage Act passed. He's Democrat. He said, "Did you see that McConnell voted against the interracial marriage thing, and he's in a interracial marriage? I said, he voted against taking away your religious liberties." And he looks at me. Well, that's not what it is. That's what that bill is. It strips your religious
Where do
liberties.
you get your
so if
news
you own a
from?
business, you can't operate your business as you seem fit based off of your convictions and your beliefs. He's, well, I don't see it that way. He said, well, it's wrong, but good for you.
That's
Reality
nice.
shattered.
You're wrong, but that's
That's
nice.
nice. And he didn't know how to take that, so he just walked away. It's people need to be told you're wrong.
Yeah. No.
That's adorable, but you're wrong.
Seriously, where does he get his news from?
Probably
MSNBC.
It might as well be a fan
CNN,
fiction site or
Fox.
something. Writing fan fiction about
freaking
politics.
Fox News was worthless during McCarthy. Unless it was Tucker Carlson, everything on Fox News
I
was
am a fan of Tucker.
pointless.
Tucker's about the only one worth listening to anymore.
Sean Hackety Hack,
Fox.
freaking
Dude,
trying to call people out.
I used to love Sean growing up.
Yep.
He is.
I
don't know if he's gotten worse over the years or if I've just gotten smarter.
I stopped listening to him with the Trump campaign because he was just Trump this, Trump that, Trump this. Shut up.
I stopped listening to him when I was 16.
Yeah.
But
I never started listening to him.
And you didn't miss anything.
you didn't miss anything.
No.
Yeah, no, that was my dad's morning routine was Rush Limbaugh, Paul Harvey, and Sean Hannity.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yep. Anyway, do all the liking, subscribing. Welcome to a new year. It should be fun, especially now that I have time to do things.
Fun with a capital F us.
Yes, congratulations on your new house, Trevor.
Yes, I will. Once I'm fully moved in, I will have time to do some projects for this podcast that I've been trying to do. So it should be good.
Yay! Bye! I'm always willing. And that's how the recording started.
I just sit here.
Is my camera lined up?
Perfectly.
Oh, that was a hot mic.
Just
if I ever saw
sure.
one.
It's all about timing. Make them question whether it's intentional or not.
I like to hit the record button at the most opportune times.
If you're looking for the opportune moment, that was it.
Yes. Yes, indeed.
Indubitably.
In double bubble.
Double bubble.
Wow. All right. Are we ready?
Yeah, we're all.
Are you
we're
recording? Is it all?
We're
synced?
all clapped up over here. We're ready for.
You've got the clap and you've given it to.
I've already given the clap.
You've already given the clap.
Yep.
Good.
To some lucky winner out there.
As you should.
I sent it telepathically.
Give it away. Give it away. Give it away now. Brings a whole new meaning to that song.
That was
doesn't it?
Dr. Fauci's theme song during the AIDS pandemic.
That's
What?
Very, very. Anyway.